Hey everybody, we're getting ready to head into week 3 of the NFL season. We got a showdown game tonight. Was it Pittsburgh, Cleveland? Going to be an exciting one. Anyway, what I'm focused on here is the wide receiver and tight end niche on DraftKings ReignMakers and fantasy in general, but I'm specifically looking at the rare cards and looking at some prices and what might be relative bargains, what might be relatively overpriced currently. So you want to be like a happy person at the end of this, like her, not like him at the end of the weekend. All right, so as far as the prices, there's no place online that currently has a history of prices of cards that I'm aware of. But just from what I wrote down yesterday when I was looking for bargains to compare them to today, some of the bigger movers, this is just from less than 24 hours, and the cup is highlighted because it's a superstar card. So I'm only looking at the rare level wide receivers and tight ends because that's the level that I'm focusing on right now of accumulating lineups. Might need to sell some more of my core cards to buy some more on there. But since yesterday, and the sort of gray, the orange brownish ones are ones that have injury questions. Cooper Kupp up $15. That's a 14% change. Diggs going through the roof at 170, up $10. Keenan Allen, that's an injury one as well. I didn't mark that. Questionable as to whether he's going to play, whether Herbert's going to play. It looks like Herbert's going to play. Keenan Allen, not sure. Up 20%. Mark Andrews up $7. Tyler Lockett. Now, when I went through this list yesterday and looked for bargains, that was actually the biggest bargain to me, and I bought it yesterday, so it's up $6 since then. So other people recognize that was a bargain at like $17. It's up 35%. Mike Williams tied in with Allen, with Herbert, possibly why people are buying it. Now, these aren't huge amounts, and so that can be from one low listing, but these are the current, based on the lowest floor prices that I saw of any set going on. Garrett Wilson on the Jets, Julio, Myers and Aguilar from the Patriots. Both looked relatively cheap, and people are buying those up a bit. Some of the ones that are down the most since yesterday, and again, not that many with huge movements. According to the data I had from the prices, Kelsey is down $23 at that floor price. So either there was a high floor yesterday, there's a low floor today. Either way, that's down 20%. But that may only be one that's gone. A.J. Brown, down 14. That's been jacked up a lot. Down 11%. Pittman, looks to me like he is going to play, but not certain. Down 10. Equanimous St. Brown. I don't know if I had a high print on that yesterday, but down 10. Gage, Sammy Watkins, Schuster, Justin Jefferson, the superstar, 105. And then a couple others of note. There were several others at plus or minus $5, which is not a big amount in general, but when you're on a percent basis, it can be. But a couple others of the lower ones. Quez Watkins had a big week last week, down pretty big, or had a pretty good week. Osborne on the Vikings, down 4 on those floor prices. So, what are some possible relative bargains? Obviously, all of this is buy at your own risk. What I looked at is what players, how they have actually performed the first 2 weeks of this year, and what is projected for next week, based on one fantasy site that I was using their projections of, which hopefully are decent projections. And then I've sort of put an equal weighting to both, and then compare it to the price they're at compared to other ones that are around that tier, other players looking for relative bargains. And so this really doesn't take into account things like potential for the rest of the season, injuries, things like that can play into it. But the projections for this week should take some of that into account. So it's sort of like systematically based. The tier is where sort of they would fall in this, but the week 3 projection is actually where that fantasy site currently is projecting them on DraftKings PPR. So what stands out as a bargain is the Cup at 105, because he is sort of in a tier by himself and or with Jefferson. Then we have the Pittman and Waddle, which are a very high tier. The Pittman slight injury, 57, 75. You can see their week 3 projections. Then Adams and Chase, both superstars. I mean, he had a monster first week. Didn't do as much last week. Both around $80 currently. And there's their projections. Then I sort of said B plus tier on these. Kirk, Samuel on Washington, who's been very, very utilized nicely, but it's hard to say. Michael Thomas and Sutton. Some of Sutton depends on Judy's being out, would increase it to me. $38, $48, $35, $50 projected points there. They have Sutton pretty high, higher than these. At the same price range. Sort of the tiers are just something I just sort of added in here. But all relative bargains compared to other ones in their niche, so to speak, or in their range of performances on the rare level. You can see those there. That's the sort of the first group. Then going down to sort of lesser players. Drake London, Garrett Wilson, 2 rookies. Also Dotson, a rookie, that have all put up numbers so far. Bateman on Baltimore, Brown on Arizona. Lockett is still a bargain, even though he was cheaper yesterday, based on the production so far and expected. Geno has got better numbers than people think, and he hit Lockett a lot, particularly last week. Jacoby Myers, again, one of those quiet guys that gets targets and yards. And Darren Waller, actually, too. Basically, B to B minus tier on these. You can see the projections. They've got Brown with a pretty big week. Lockett, London, Myers, and Waller. But also to keep in mind with all of this is these players are important in general for fantasy and for regular football as to if they're going to be playing, when they're going to be playing, how much they're going to be playing, starting with this week onwards. And you can see their low floor prices of Keenan Allen, 42, Julio, Jones, 29, Kittle, 38, Godwin, 27, Gallup probably back this week, Godwin possibly back this week, 19, Kittle supposedly back this week, Judy, 32, Mike Evans, 45. He's a suspension, plus he tends to be banged up. Godwin could be a good one if he's has some of his old form back, and even Gallup, if the Cowboys can get something going. Remains to be seen. Allen and Evans, they can be the top guys, but we'll have to see what happens. And Judy had a great start to the year. There's 3 Tampa Bay receivers on here. There's a lot of unknowns going on with that, and they actually haven't delivered that much in the passing game this season so far. Some more relative bargains, moving down to like a C tier players if you're really on the bargain basement shopping, which is what I do sometimes. But I'm stepping it up a bit on ReignMakers on the rare level. Duvernay, slight injury issue. Robbie Anderson on Carolina. Higbee on the Rams. Landry on the Saints. Sterling Shepard. Zach Ertz. Everett. Corey Davis. Down even here lower tier. And James, who's on the Giants. So you got Shepard and James as deep type sleeper guys, or if you want to fill out lineups with some real cheap wide receiver and tight ends who are actually putting up decent numbers and are cheap relative to other ones and have projections for this week. You can see the variance. Shepard 13.5, Higbee 12.8, James 11.4, Ertz 11.2. That's in a showdown game, the Giants Cowboys. Both those. Duvernay banged up a little bit. Everett, Corey Davis, Landry. The one I like on this group was Robbie Anderson, and I'm probably going to buy one because he can get big touchdowns. And in a given week, he's the kind of player that can put up a big total, and for so cheap. Let me see on the other ones. If I had to pick one on the other pages, it's not letting me go back. Oh well. If I had to pick one of each of the other pages. So next, some of them that look relatively expensive at today's prices to me. So I could say buyer beware, but some of these are guys who underperformed and could bounce back. But just on a relative basis, again, looking at sort of a numerical thing based on the first 2 weeks of the year and how they're projected this week and their price relative to others in that group. Diggs overpriced at 170. He's projected 21 points, very high. A.J. Brown at 111. I think that actually has come in a bit, but he's projected high as well. Now, Debo and Lamb are superstars. And Lamb is actually getting cheap there on a dollar basis, but they really haven't delivered yet this year on a level of where they're priced at. Now, they could certainly turn around, talented, and with Garoppolo in there, but he's projected 16. He's only projected 13.7. T. Higgins has been struggling through injuries, and the Bengals have underperformed a bit. At 57, he's relatively expensive based on performance this year and projections. Then moving down to this lower ones, these guys are overpriced relative to others that are in the teens, let's say, or less. Lazard, projected 10 points. Claypool is in the showdown game, which could keep him a little higher. Projected around 10. Burks on Tennessee, one of the players with potential that everybody kind of likes, but hasn't really been doing much so far. So you look at those other rookies and young players I was showing you that are maybe around the same prices who are actually getting targets and putting up better numbers so far, at least fantasy numbers. And Kyle Pitts, one of these guys we all love his athleticism, but he hasn't done and delivered anything for Atlanta so far this year. Drake London has. So on that basis, at $30 overpriced, they still have him projected at 12 this week. He may turn it around, if they can get it going. That's it for today. I'm just going to do this is a short video for me. I talk a long time. There's some of my average listeners. Of course, the skin color is all whited out on the stock cartoons, but my username on Dapper, TopShot, and NBA is Kentucky Wildcats. If you want to tip me something on there, my DraftKings referral code is there. If you enjoy my videos, please check out the other content. I cover a variety of things. Just today, looking at the wide receivers and tight ends on the rare levels of which ones look like relative bargains and which ones have had some price movement over the last day. All right, have a good fantasy week ahead. I'll probably be posting more videos each day. Talk to you later.